Verse 16. कटितटपीतदुकूलविचित्रमयूखतिरस्कृतचन्द्ररुचे प्रणतसुरासुरमौलिमणिस्फुरदंशुलसन्नखचन्द्ररुचे जितकनकाचलमौलिपदोर्जित निर्भरकुञ्जरकुम्भकुचे जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते. So in the last one we saw, if you remember, we saw about her voice. Karamurali Rava Vijita Kujita Lajjita Kokila Manjumate. We spoke about her voice and Nijagana Bhuta Mahashabari Gana Sadguna Sambrita Kelitale. So her voice and the people that she moves with and all that. So we saw that. And now we are discussing about her toenails. So all the way from the waist, Katitata Pita. Katitata is the waist band. Kati means the hip or the waist. The waist band that is there, and then there is a pita, which means there is a pitambara, silky cloth that is flowing down from her waist. Katitata Pita Dukula Vichitra. The material is Dukula. Dukula means silk. Vichitra. Vichitra means various colors. Variety of colors. The silk cloth that is flowing down from Devi's waist. And Mayukha Tiraskrita. Mayukha means rays of light. Tiraskrita. It means it kind of puts it to shame. Whose Mayukha? Whose rays? Chandra Ruche. The Chandrama's light, the brilliance of the Chandrama, that light is Tiraskrita, is put to shame. By what? By this beautiful silky cloth that is flowing down Devi's waist. Katita tapita dukula vichitra mayukha tiraskrita chandra ruche. Then pranata sura asura mauli manispura. Pranata sura asura. Sura asura are the devatas and the asuras. Sura and asura together, sura asura. They are doing what? Pranata. They are doing pranam. They are doing prostration to you. And those devatas, mauli manispura, the crown they are wearing, there is a jewel or their crown which has money, that is getting the radiance of the toenails. Damshula sannakha. Damshula means the radiance of the nakha, the feet, toenails, and it spreads all over. Chandra Ruche, it spreads like the moon's brightness. So the moon's brightness is compared to the brightness that is coming from Devi's Pitambara Vastra, silky Dukula Vichitra, colorful Pitambara Vastra, and also from her nails, toenails. And in a way, it is saying the toenails are getting its radiance from the. Why are the toenails shining? Because the devatas with their crown are falling at her feet, and those gems in their crown is reflecting on Devi's feet, and hence the light is coming out like that. So Devi's nakha is so reflective of Who all? Pranata Surasura. All the Sura and Asura are falling at her feet. And these are Suras and Asuras are all, in a way, kings in their own right. They all wear crowns, right? Each one is a king in their own right. So they wear crowns. Even whatever small set of people also, they are a king. So they are falling at her feet, and the jewels that are embedded in the crown of them, crown of theirs, the light of the gems is falling on Devi's feet, and the light is reflecting off her nakha, from the toes. So this whole place is, uh, the whole place, imagine the place of Devi's feet, it's all lighted up like Deepavali. You got the silky cloth, bright, colorful, and then various bright lights coming out of Devi's feet as a reflection of these Sura and Asura's crowns. And then the crowns are also letting out light, because they are made up of gold, and there are gems studded in it. Okay. Now this idea is also presented in one verse of Saundarya Lahari. Actually, several verses of Saundarya Lahari talks about the Devatas at Devi's feet. But one very a verse that is very close to my heart, Bhavani Tvam Dase. So that particular verse, there is a reference that's made. Bhavani Tvam Dase Mai Vitara Drishtim Sakarunam Iti Stotum Vanchan Kathayati Bhavani Tvamiti Yaha Tadaiva Tvam Tasmai Dishasi Naja Sayujya Padavim Mukunda Brahmendra Sputa Makuta Nirajita Padam. Sputa Makuta Nirajita Padam. So they are performing Nirajanam, Arati. With what? With their crowns. With their crowns, their Mukunda, Brahma, Indra. Vishnu, Brahma, Indra, they're all doing with with their crowns at your feet. They're doing this Arati at your feet. So this is the what is called as the Shakti Kuta of Devi. Devi is largely, you can classify Devi into three parts. Not just Devi. Each one of us, we can kind of slice ourselves into three large parts. One is the face part, and then one is from the neck until the waist, and the third part is the waist, below the waist to the feet. So, but in Lalita Sahasranama, there is a reference to the Trikuta. So the face is Vagbhava Kuta, Vagbhava Kutaika Nilaya. So she is, this part is called the Vagbhava Kuta. From here below is called the Madhya Kuta, and below that is called the Shakti Kuta. Now there is description about the Shakti Kuta. He's saying that that place is all so bright and shining, and everybody is falling at the feet of Devi. There is a very beautiful another verse in Saundarya Lahari that also makes a reference to the crowns that are there at the feet of Devi. This verse actually explains or tries to explain that, oh Devi, Shiva has come at the door. You're trying to run to meet him, but while you're going, be careful. You may step on Shiva's crown, on Indra's crown, or Vishnu's crown, or some Asura's crown. You may you may hurt your feet on it. So be careful. There is a verse like that actually. Maybe let me just okay. This I think is the 29th verse. Kiritam Vairincham Pariharapurah Kaita Bhavidaha Kathore Kotire Skhalasi Jahi Jambhari Makutam Pranamre Shveteshu Prasabham Yatasya Bhavanam Bhavasyabhyuthane Tava Parijanor Parijanoktir vijayate. So you may topple over this thing, the crown of Vishnu or the crown of Indra. So be careful, or the crown of Brahma, Mukunda Brahmendra. While you're trying to go to receive Shiva, because you suddenly saw Shiva there and you're out of your excitement, you're going to receive him. Be careful. You may step over this and hurt yourself. It's a very nice verse. It's a beautiful. It's a there is a Shringara rasa there. There's a very it's a nice poetic way of saying it. So there he is also hinting. Adi Shankara is also hinting that she will be. I mean, there are suras and asuras at her feet, bowing down or prostrating. So here also the same thing is saying, Pranata sura asura mauli spurat damshula sannakha chandra ruche. Mauli mani spurat damshula sannakha chandra ruche. And this is what it shows here is that Devi is essentially, when we had actually discussed this at length in Saundarya Lahari, if I remember. The interesting thing is when you go, this is a way of saying that when we go to a lot of deities seeking different kinds of kamapurti, right? I want this, I want that. We go to different deities asking for that. This stotra is trying to say that when you go and fall at Devi's feet, Parashakti's feet, you'll suddenly find all of them also there. Right? So it is a way of saying that she is the ultimate, and you can go and hold her directly, go and hold her feet, because those other people you are praying to are also holding her feet. That's a way of saying. And this can be true of anybody, by the way. Right? Here we are saying Vishnu, Mukunda, Brahmendra. But if we look at how a Vaishnava looks at it, or a Krishna Bhakta looks at it, for him everything culminates into Krishna. For him everything culminates into Narayana. So he will say all the other devatas, be it Rudra or Devi or any other form of devatas, they fall at his feet. So it doesn't matter who you hold as the most at the highest order. It doesn't matter. Which is why a lot of times Nirguna Upasana becomes far more I would say I mean, rather I would say Nirguna Upasana can become less troublesome. Nirguna Upasana, because there when your mind is on the principle, you are not worried of the form. There is disturbance that sets in when you are worried about the form. Should I think of Narayana, but I feel like thinking of Devi? Should I think of Hanuman, but I feel like thinking of Muruga? Because our mind presents various pictures, we get caught up in that. At the end of the day, it's all pictures, it's images, right? Yo yo yam yam prapadyante. What is that verse? Yo yo yam yam tanuhu bhaktah श्रद्धयार्चितम श्रद्धयार्चितुम इच्छति तस्य तस्याचला श्रद्धाम ताम एव विदधाम यहम. So the yo yo yam yam, in whatever form each one approaches me, in that form I respond to them. right? The form beyond a certain point should not be given too much importance. Form is important for association, for creating that uh, love, that exchange, that form of the what you call that is that proximity, and then a certain level of um, 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 the connectedness to create that form is required. But we should also remember that form should not become an obstacle. Yes, Mama.
இந்த விபூதி யோகால அதனால தான் அவர் வந்து எல்லாத்தையும் சொல்றாரா, இந்த மாதிரி நான் இதுல இதுவா இருக்கேன் இதுவா இருக்கேன் இதுவா இருக்கேன்ட்டு.
Absolutely.
So that we can try to associate whichever we think is closer to us.
Perfect. That is what it is. In the Vibhuti Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, this is the reason he comes to say that I am. He uses 25 verses to just explain all that you perceive is I. And he keeps enumerating all of that. The reason he enumerates is so that we know that form is only important so much, because whichever side you turn and you see the form, you should be able to see that principle. That principle needs to be seen. See, I'll tell you, this is something that's very important to be understood, is the Vishwarupa Darshanam that Arjuna had may not have looked like Narayana. It looked like something. See, because we carry a very, very strong imagery about each of this, right? We carry a very strong imagery. Because Namakala, we say that it's all calendar poster. Although there's a beautiful Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayat Sarva Vignopashante. Vishnu is described in a certain way. Kshiro Danvat Pradeshe Shuchimanavelasat Saikater Muktikanam. He is described in a certain way. Or Sinduraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Mauli Spurat Taranayaka Shekaram Smitamukhim. They are all explained. There is Dhyana Shloka that explains their form, but it is not restrictive. Dhyana Shloka is to bring you, it's an entry. It is an entry point to get access to that. Like in Ishavasya Upanishad, he says, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasyapi hi mukham. Show me that mukham, Satya mukham, that is behind this patra, Hiranmayena Patrena, this golden disc that I see of you, O Surya Bhagavan, that is not your true form. Satyasyapi hitam mukham. Show me the mukham that is the Satya, the real face of you, which doesn't have a form. Doesn't mean that it's form. See, if you can't imagine formless, let's imagine all forms. Right? If you are not able to imagine formless, we say, oh, I want to have a personal this thing. Sure, but recognize that in all. And this is the dichotomy many people get caught up, or the conflict many people get caught up is this, that they give so much importance to the form. The Vigraha Rupam is extremely important. The Kalyana Gunas are very important. The Rupam is very important. But for what? To evoke that bhakti inside. There needs to be a line of difference between spirituality and fanaticism. We become fanatics. In our own little ways, we become fanatics. Who are you to say that this is not true? You can say this is true, but none of us have this thing to say that is not true. So here in this verse, he is bringing that idea of Devi's Shakti Kuta. The bottom part is saying that there is this beautiful glow and brilliance that is there, which you will find at Devi's feet. If you're going to Devi's feet, you will find this glorious light. And the light comes because of Devi herself, her Katitata Pita, and also because of all these Devatas, and all of them are prostrating down to her. So if you have several Ishta Devatas, the author is saying that if you have several Ishta Devatas, you go to Devi, you will find all of them there at her feet. Okay. Now, it doesn't here mean to say, this is another important, doesn't mean to say who one is bigger or the other is smaller. See, we have to remember this also. In nature, there is day and there is night. There is light and there is darkness in nature. There is positive, that is negative. But it's not to say that one is better and the other is not. See, we are talking about day and night here in this planet Earth for 12 hours is day, 12 hours is night. You go into space, it's all night. Where is day and night in space?
Yeah, India polar region la ponale there's no day, either is fully day or is fully night.
Correct. The
Yeah.
northern poles. Correct.
Oh.
At the poles. So when our ideas of polarity or duality is so limited, right? Idea of duality is so limited. So we are saying here that doesn't mean that one is better and the other is not. Whatever works for you, that's what we take and that's what we follow and do. Jumping because something doesn't seem to work is not the right thing. We have to stay with one thing long enough, and then it will lead you to the other. Dasamahavidya, we saw this. Kali Tara Mahavidya Shodashi Bhuvaneshwari Bhairavi Chinnamastacha Vidya Dhumavati Tatha Bagala Siddha Vidyacha Matangi Kamalatmika. This is Dasamahavidyas. These Dasamahavidya, they have, each one can take a bhakta or a practitioner to that highest knowledge. But it's also possible that you stick with one, she will suddenly lead you to the other. It may happen so. You may come across some guru, some teacher, some this thing who will lead. You will find that naturally somehow you're getting led from one Devi to the other. Does it mean that the previous one was lesser in any way? Doesn't mean that. It just means that right now your energies, your mind, the way you're configured, your life situations and all that, now this energy or this form is best suited for you to take you forward. This is what we need to understand, which is why the greatness of this culture is that it has so much variety. It should not end in conflict. It should allow us freedom of exploration. And not because, oh, something is not working, let me jump. It should be a natural progression. If it happens, so it happens. It's also the same thing with gurus. A lot of people have ask, how can you have multiple gurus? Because if your experience is one guru leading you to another, there's nothing wrong. No one is smaller or bigger. It is just that for your time in your life, in your space, in your experience, a certain energy and a certain guru is required to take you to where you need to go. Right? So that is the first verse. Then the next verse is Jita Kana Kachala Mauli Madorjita Nirbhara Kunjara Kumbhakuche. So here he's saying that jitakana kachala. So this is the so it's essentially this verse is kind of a little so kumbha kuche means her breast. Her breast is it is quelling, or um, it is reducing the pride of or the pride of the asuras, or even the asuras, the pride that is there in them, that is like a mountain of pride that is there. Mauli madorchita, mada urchita, mada urjita means filled with pride. Their mauli, their heads are filled with pride. For such nirbhara kunjara, she is that compassion. Through what? Through her kumbha kuche, through her kumbha shaped kucha, breasts. So the and how does this pride come from? Jita kana kachala. Jita means if you recognize that you have won something by winning, jita kana kachala, mauli mador jita. So by winning, your head is swollen in pride. She, out of compassion, with her kumbha shaped breasts, suppresses that pride. Okay. Now it's a very interesting visualization of how this is happening, right? So now just visualize yourself, you are at the feet of Devi, and you've got the silky cloth that is there, and the light that is coming through, and then you're at her feet. And when you raise up to see Devi, the way the composer is describing is, you may see the breasts of Devi. For you to be able to see the face of Devi, you will see the breasts, which can possibly come in the way of seeing the face also. And so in this case, the Madhya Kuta, because the breasts are in the Madhya, is almost like a hindrance for the Bhakta to be able to see the Vagbhava Kuta, the face of Devi. But why is that required here in this context? Is because is also to understand that even if, and this is very subtle thing, this is very subtle, this is like a Rudra Granthi, a knot that is there in the Agnya Chakra, Rudra Granthi Vibhedini. She is the Rudra Granthi Vibhedini. The Rudra Granthi occurs when there is knowledge, intelligence blossoms, knowledge comes, and we feel things are working in my life through grace, and then there is a pride that comes. Pride can come at any time. I am very humble அப்படின்னு சொல்லி அந்த MBல வந்து ஒரு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் கொடுப்பா பாருங்க. அப்போவே தெரிஞ்சிரும் நமக்கு எவ்வளவு ஹம்பிள்னு. We'll know the humility of the person when they stress on that. I am very humble. I'm a humble.
இல்லைன்னா சுத்தி இருக்கோட சொல்ல ரொம்ப ஹம்பிள் அப்படின்ட்டு.
The umba becomes so very, I'm a very humble devotee. He's a very humble devotee. Humility, my guru says a very beautiful thing, and it's like when I heard this being said, just was like a flash, but then it kind of remained. It's like, wow, It's actually quite profound. He said, humility is like an underwear. You never wear it on the outside unless you're Superman. Humility is like an undergarment. You don't go showing it on the outside, but you need it for yourself. You need the undergarment to feel fit, to feel right, to be in the right frame of body. You need an undergarment, but you can't keep showing it on the outside. So he says humility is like that. So this pride, mother, can come at any time. Even when you're at the feet of Devi, to be able to get to the feet of Devi is a great feat. Devi's feet, to get to Devi's feet is a great feat, F-E-A-T. It is because it takes a lot of effort to be able to be a recipient of her grace, to be able to get to that recipient, to be receiving of that grace, to experience that, yes, I am at Devi's feet, Devi is gracing me, to experience that. It's not, you'll not get this real situation where there is a Devi sitting and you'll suddenly go and fall at her feet. It's not like that, right? It is the experience within that you feel, yes, somebody is listening to me and somebody is gracing me. I'm walking, there is construction happening, and a stone falls right behind me. Coconut tree lane, this happened. My mother and I, we were walking there in Coimbatore. Suddenly, one coconut came and then just fell beside me. Very tall tree. My mother said that it's said that coconut never falls on anybody's head. I don't know how that happens, but it never falls on anybody's head apparently. But that day I felt quite strange. I was like, wow, it is up and it fell and gave a huge loud noise. And I thought maybe just a few inches here and there, it could have actually fallen on my head. So I'm saying sometimes, just an example, but I'm saying a lot of times we come across things where we recognize that, oh, I made a prayer, I made a small offering, I made a surrender in my mind and things worked. I have that grace. And a lot of times it happens like this. We need to recognize that grace doesn't come for free. You have to remain in that state of humility. You have to remain in that state of surrender for grace to keep flowing. Right? It is not that, okay, today I've filled up grace and I've kept it in a container. It'll exhaust very soon. Grace exhausts faster than spirit. It evaporates faster than spirit. I said, my guru's guru said, grace is directly proportional to the effort that you put in. Although grace comes in unknown ways, but what draws grace upon you is the effort that you put. It may not be directly, it may not be, oh, I put effort for getting a house, I got a house, that hence grace is flowing. No, it's not like that. It is not objectified that way. Whatever needs to happen to you in the most beautiful way will happen. That is grace, but it's commensurate to the effort that we put in. So that when we go through that process, slowly it develops. It can also develop this pride. So to be able to keep receiving that grace, we have to also keep quelling that pride. Right? To be able to look up and to see mother's face and not have the kucha or the breast be an obstacle. That is the amount of that will be grace to be able to see. Right? And also this is one way. The other way to understand is also when you look up, you remind yourself that she is the nourisher. Kucha or the breast is also the symbol of nourishment. So mother is the one who's nourishing me. So there is no really coming to a destination in this thing. When we get to knowledge, get understanding, we get this jnanam, it is not that it's a destination in that sense. From a Laukika perspective, yes, it's a destination. But for the bhakta or for the yogi or the one who is in that, it's an ongoing thing, constantly ongoing. Has to be extremely alert. And you look at her and you say, yes, you are the nourisher. You are the one who is gracing me. You are the one who is making it happen for me. Avan arulal, avan தாழ் வணங்கி. ஸோ ஐ வணங்குறேன், உன்னை வணங்குறேன்னா அதுக்கும் உன்னோட அருள் தான். யுவர் அருள் இஸ் important for me to be able, or your grace is important for me to even prostrate down to you. So you look up and she is the nourisher. And when you know that she is the nourisher, then again your humility sets in. So this particular verse is about how you are at the feet of Devi, you're experiencing the light and that glory of Devi's feet, and you're also noticing that there are other suras, asuras, which means all those deities that you go and seek some kind of kamya purti, they are also there at Devi's feet, which means you have come to the right place. And then when you look up, you recognize that she is the one who's nourishing you. So your humility remains in place. You continue to stay in the state of surrender. And this is one thing that I have noticed again in the Vaishnava Sampradayam. There's something called as prapatti. Prapatti means you surrender to the Acharya and hence to Bhagavan. Right? And then when you do prapatti, there are a few things that are offered to you as part of that. Right? You're given a nama, you're given this nama and a nama. You're given a dasa nama and you're given the symbol nama. And then you're given the Tirumantram, and then you're given the Ashtaksharam. You're given the Ashtaksharam and you're given a few other things. Nityanasandhanam, what needs to be done, all that. But the important thing to notice is prapatti, although it is a one-time activity that is done, the attitude is not a one-time attitude. Just because I've done prapatti does not mean that I can continue to live the way I want to live. Extremely important that prapatti is not a passport. Even though you have a passport, you need a visa, right, to go to some countries. So prapatti may be like that passport. It gives you the eligibility. But then to get to travel to countries, most of the countries, we need a visa. For that, you have to put effort. So to remain in prapatti, to remain in an attitude of surrender, that takes effort, which we need to keep reminding ourselves, because a lot of times the feeling of devotion, the feeling of surrender, the feeling of worshipful attitude comes and then goes away. And the mind tells that, oh, I have already done prapatti, I have already surrendered myself. Surrender can never be in the past tense. Understand this. If somebody is saying, I have surrendered in the past tense, he is not understood it at all. Surrender is in the present tense. You have surrendered means you are in the attitude of surrender. You are in the attitude and the bhavana of surrender is right now, right here. Is it there? Now, is it there? Now, is it there? This is how it is. It is always in the present. It's a very, very, very subtle and a very profound thing. We need to understand, because a lot of times the mind tricks us. It will say that, oh, I have surrendered to Narayana. I have surrendered to Ambal Devi, my Ishta Devata. I have surrendered. Right? Because you don't stop evolving in some way or the other. You keep changing. You give, right? You keep constantly changing. How can something like an attitude of surrender be of a past? You are faced with new experiences, new people, new challenges, new emotions. You have to reinstate that every time. Every time you have to reinstate, consecrate. This needs to happen. Right? So that is this beautiful verse today. कटितटपीतदुकूलविचित्रमयूखतिरस्कृतचन्द्ररुचे प्रणतसुरासुरमौलिमणिस्फुरदंशुल सन्नख चन्द्ररुचे जितकनकाचलमौलिमदोर्जितनिर्भरकुञ्जर कुम्भकुचे जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते। ओम कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि। जगदम्बिकायेति समर्पयामि। सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि। हरि ओम सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।
हरि ओम प्रभु।
हरि ओम चित्ती।
हरि ओम।
हरि